Hello and welcome to the Ohio Pagan Guide. We're your hosts, Callie and Samora, and this is our guide to all things pagan in Ohio.
Today is the first in our series we're calling So I'm a pagan. Now, how do I.
Dot, dot, dot.
And today's topic is how do I set up a sacred space?
Ooh.
So I think that before we get started, the first thing that we need to talk about is temporary sacred space versus a permanent sacred space.
But first off, what is a sacred space? Sacred spaces are a place of worship. Many people have churches or they'll have like a room in their home where they can go and practice their practice, or maybe it's somewhere outside that they can practice their practice. This would be considered a safe space or a sacred space because they're safe while they're practicing.
And temporary sacred space is something that you can take down and set up.
Yep.
As you need. So if you're in the broom closet or you have a roommate or you're in a single bedroom apartment, studio apartment, and don't have the space to have something permanent, it's a area in your home that you can set up as you need it.
Right?
And
It's kind of like an on-the-go altar.
yes, permanent sacred space is just a space that you have set up all the time that you can go to at any time of the day or night and worship as you see fit.
Yep.
And it can be big, it can be small. A lot of witches will set up what they call a travel altar, which is just a little container that has everything they need to set up and do some kind of spell or ritual on the go.
Yep. And they'll keep it in their cars or in their book bags just because you never know when you're going to need that little extra oomph.
For all you Pinterest witches out there, there's those altars in a jar that you see occasionally for the different holidays where they have different representations. You can stick a candle in it and have salt and dirt and leaves and everything you need to represent that holiday.
Yep.
And that's just a little space that you go to worship that holiday.
That would be fun to do as a coven, like each season, prep for the next season or whatever, and then use that for a ritual.
Mm-hmm. Can you have more than one sacred space?
Of course.
I do. I have my working altar, where it's a permanent space that I go to do my spells, my rituals, and all of that. I have an ancestor altar because I do ancestor veneration. So I have an ancestor altar set up with things that remind me of my beloved dead, not necessarily blood relation, but also chosen family and acquaintances, and even my pets. I have my pets on there. Just a place to go to honor them, to talk with them, to commune with them. I have shrines for different patron deities. You can also, as we were just talking about, set up a little ritual for a little altar for the season.
Right.
And you don't necessarily have to leave them up all the time. I do, just because I have the space for that.
See, and the way that I got it set up is I've got my dining room as my spirit room. So I've got I think there's 5 altars in total. One is my husband, the other 4 belong to me. And if you look around in my room in there, you'll see pictures of those that have passed on. I don't got everybody that's passed on, but I got a good majority of them. So that way it's always like, hey, they're looking after me, and I can look up at them and be like, hey, they're here with me.
So,
yeah. So,
I think that leads us to the question of, can you have too much sacred space?
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Most definitely.
Oh, yeah. You can go a little overboard, I think. I mean, look at me. I've got a entire basement right now dedicated to sacred space.
But it's nicely set up, though.
It's not the entire basement, to be fair.
It's like a half of the basement.
It's about a bedroom size.
Yeah.
It's about a bedroom size portion of the basement, which is what it will eventually be when we finish the basement off. Eventually.
Right.
It will be about the size of a bedroom, and that is just going to be my workspace. But it's not just a sacred space for my working altar. It's also where I make my oils and my incense and all this other stuff that I do that's part of my spirituality. So it is a sacred space, a sacred room for that purpose.
And see, like in my dining room, like I'll prep my breads and, meals and stuff like that. And that kind of ties into the ancestral, because that makes me feel like my gods and my ancestors are working with me as I'm kneading the bread or making the dough for whatever needs to be done.
to answer the question, can you have too much sacred space? Yes. I think you were talking about how you felt like you had too many altars and needed to condense down.
Yeah, I've been thinking about condensing it down, but then again, it's hard because I've dedicated these spaces for so long that I'm afraid I'm going to piss off one of my gods real bad, and they're going to be like, "Oh no, we don't downgrade, we don't share." No, like, where's my space? And plus, each of my altars, I have so much stuff on them already, so it's like, what do I do with all this stuff that I have for these altars, for these gods? What do I put on there to represent them besides their statue? So it's like a whole whirlwind, and I'm just like, yeah, well, we'll just leave them up right now.
I know I have a friend in Kentucky who is downgrading, and she is finding homes for the pieces that she decided not to put on her altar. So I'm getting a couple of things from her as well. I'm going, I don't have room for this, but I'll take it anyway. I'll give it a home. I'll make it
Right.
feel loved still. So that's one thing that you could do. I think that also leads us into a discussion about limitations of your
Yep.
sacred space. A lot of places won't let you burn candles. I did, for my friend in California, she wanted to do an office blessing, and she can't burn candles there. So we used cinnamon sticks to represent the quarters instead of
Right.
candles.
I mean, that works, and that's a smart idea. I would have never thought of that, about that.
So I think that, you know, and I think that you don't necessarily have to have everything. I think that it goes without saying that we ourselves are sacred space.
I think when it comes to things, and like, they're just things. You could have a stone to represent a quarter or a corner or whatever. Like, it just depends on you. All that is a mental image for you to focus on and manifest through. That's it.
And that's really all the tools and all the trappings of witchcraft. That's all it really is focus points. It's associations that help your mind focus on exactly what you're trying to produce. You don't need things to be a witch.
Right.
You don't need a sacred space per se. You are the sacred space.
And I believe that too. And that's another thing, like, and we'll get into this into a later episode, but sacred space where you can do it in a dream state or do it within a meditation state where it's not just physical, it's like a spiritual place in your mind.
I think there's a book about that called The Altar Within.
Yep.
Basically that's what it is. It's talking about going into yourself and being the altar, being the driving spiritual force, because ultimately that's what witchcraft is. You yourself manifesting the change. Everything else is just that Cornelian stone is just to help you focus. That's
Right.
It has, well, as an animist, I believe that it does have power, but
That's beside the point. It's pretty.
it's pretty. It's really what it is. I don't need that to help me,
But it's nice.
but it's nice to have. I mean, my first athame was a small paring knife that I took from my kitchen and wrapped the handle in electrical tape.
Right. Because it's got to be a black handled knife.
Yep. It doesn't have to be. I think right now I'm using a little wooden one that's just all wood.
Yeah, but back in the day, they used to say it had to be black handled knives.
Mm-hmm.
That was all the rage. I don't know why. Don't know where that started.
Maybe future episode.
Possibly.
Talk about
Dive into it.
Dive into the tools, their history, where they came from, all of that. But yeah, it was a paring knife. Did I need an athame? No. Did I want one? Yes. And I made do with what I had. I was a teenager. I didn't have flexible funds.
Do you name your items? Like, I named my athame.
I have not.
My first athame was named Isabella.
Isabella. All that.
Isabella.
No, I have not. I've named cars. I have not named my ritual tools.
I have. I'm a little eccentric that way.
But I think the point that I'm striving at is, if you want that stuff, it doesn't have to be something that you spend money on.
Right.
You don't need a statue to represent your god. For a while, I used acorns. For the goddess, I used seashells.
I like that.
For the different representations of the elements, I would have stones that I picked up out of a driveway that were interesting to me, that had like pyrite on them, or
Something.
little bits of quartz or something that made it very interesting to me. A feather for air, things that you can find in nature. You don't have to buy.
And that's where the consumerism part kind of comes into it all, where you have this feeling like you have to continuously buy and consume. But realistically, you can do like what you're talking about with a friend. You're trading off the bartering system,
Mm-hmm.
or getting together and doing craft days and making things.
Mm-hmm.
We just got done making wreaths last night.
Yes. I have a book that I want to pick up that's about making your own ritual tools. I have books on how to make my own paper, how to make my own ink. I haven't really dived into that yet, but I have that book. Yes, I bought the book. Actually, no, I didn't buy those books. They were given to me as gifts for holidays.
Correction.
But I'm going to get into making my own paper. And I think making your own stuff gives it that much more energy.
Right.
Can you make a crystal? Not really. So if you really want to use crystals, yes, you're going to have to buy them. Please ethically source them.
At least try to.
Or try to, yes.
Or find a shop that does ethically source.
Yes. Nobody wants blood diamonds on their hands.
Try not to, at least.
If you can help it. Some people aren't reputable and they will say they ethically source and they don't, but...
And that's the thing that always got me is like, how can you really know? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because somebody can just BS you all the way. And it's like... And plus, people use that as a selling point. Also, another big thing I want to talk about when it comes to consumerism is these fake pagans running shops just to get the money. That irritates me so bad, especially when they admit that it's a cash grab.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it. And they'll sit there and you walk in maybe the first time and they make you feel bad because you can't buy something. If you ever come in contact with that, run the opposite way. No one's going to ever make you feel bad for not being able to afford something.
Yes. Shoestring budgets are a thing.
Yep.
And you can make your magic work without having to spend exorbitant amounts of money.
Yep. This crystal, you have to get this crystal because of this. No.
You probably have a spice in your cabinet that'll work just as well.
Yep. Or a plant in your backyard that you don't even know represents the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that, it's going to sound bad, but you really got to do your research when you're planning a spell.
Yep.
It's not necessarily about the timing. It's not even necessarily about the things that you use. But if you come across a spell that you really want to do and it's saying you need this, 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 and this, and you don't have it, you can do research and figure out what do I have that would work for that just as well.
Yep.
And I think some
substitutions.
And I think some people who are new to the craft don't realize that because they're so used to that structure of people telling them what to do that they look at this book and they go, oh, well, I have to have it. And you don't.
There are so many herbs. Like you were talking earlier in one of our episodes that this place had like 700 herbs. And realistically, if you get 10 good herbs, those will last you for different things. As long as you got, like cinnamon, you can use it for protection. You can use it to bring in money. You can also use cinnamon to make somebody lose money.
You can use cinnamon to supercharge a spell.
Yep.
Make it work faster. That pepper or spice,
that little
really fire
extra.
It up. And again, yeah, so 700 herbs. Okay, do you need all 700? No.
But is it nice occasionally to be like, oh, well, there's a new herb that I don't got? Yeah, of course, but it's not necessarily that you need to have it.
Yeah. All of that to say that you can have sacred space and you don't need all the things. I think one of the big things is some people do want to avoid consumerism. What can I do with witchcraft that I don't have to pay for?
Go out in nature.
Yep, go out in nature. So let's talk about actually setting up a sacred space other than yourself.
My first thing would be like have some kind of stand. I got bookshelves. I've got a cabinet.
I have one of my shrines on my mantle.
Exactly.
I've seen people set up a sacred space on a windowsill.
Mm-hmm. Or like a little corner end table.
Yeah. That's what my ancestor altar is on. It's on a little end table. It can just be any flat surface that you need to set something up on. Right. And the next step, I think, is to physically clean that space.
Yep.
You want to get all the dirt and debris
and the gunk and all that crap
cleaned away, and then to spiritually cleanse it with You don't necessarily need to use sage, but some kind of cleansing element or herb or smoke
Yeah.
or water.
Or disinfectant wipe with lemon.
There
Because
you
it's got lemon in it. It's say a blessing over it, and there you go.
Doesn't have to be anything special. And I think after that, it's constructing the altar, finding your representations, finding the things that you want to represent not only your deities, your elements, if you're working with
Yep.
them, even yourself.
And that's the best thing, is yourself. You can dress up, put on that witchy energy. You can dress down if that's how you like to be more free. When you're setting your space, I would say try to find somewhere where it's quiet.
Yes. Because you're going to want to spend time there in meditation.
If you can meditate, because I know some people have trouble with it.
I have to do guided meditation, and even that's a struggle sometimes.
Because your brain's like, no.
Yep.
There's been times where I've been meditating and I fall asleep.
My ADHD brain is just like, please. It's like that scene from Fight Club where he's like meditating and he's going into his cave, and then
Yeah.
Marla's there, like, slide. Suddenly I'm in my cave, but suddenly I'm not. So meditation is relatively difficult for my ADHD brain.
I think for me, what I just try to do is just let my brain go do what it's going to do. Let it go through all them crazy loops and cycles, and eventually it just evens out.
But you want it someplace quiet, so if you can meditate, you can. Some pagans will pray.
Yep.
And having a quiet space to pray to your deity is ideal.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ohio Pagans Guide. If you have questions or would like to suggest a topic we should discuss, reach out to us via email at ohiopagansguide@gmail.com or on Facebook at the Ohio Pagans Guide.